In the fourth episode, Heart of Blue, we meet a third villain group, led by a woman named Miratrix. She tricks Dax into thinking she needed to be saved from a monster, and they start dating, distracting him for a bit until she's able to steal some ancient scrolls from the group. Well, to be accurate, Dax catches her taking the third scroll where she admits she's evil and was just manipulating him. And Dax just lets her walk out while leaving his mouth hanging open. He could have made any kind of effort to stop her, but he doesn't. That seriously just happened. Oh yeah, about that scroll. That's something else I should note about this season that is kind of neat. The serial nature of the show. The ending to one episode tends to lead directly into the next one. In the third episode, while seeking one of the jewels in Atlantis subsequently becomes a giant monster, because they instead discover an ancient scroll. This leads into the next episode where they need to find two other parts to the scroll that, when combined, form a sword that mystically flies onto a spot on a map, which then leads into the next two where they go to that spot, and etc. Now, I'm always a big fan of the events of a series having consequences for the characters and the plot. Hell, the very idea that some of these episodes are filler indicates that some episodes are more important than others to the overall narrative of the show. However, I'm kind of iffy on the execution here because honestly, the way this works out is not really true consequences. It's just one item leading to another item leading to another item. And unless the item actually leads to one of the jewels of the Corona Aurora, it's pointless. We had one episode on Atlantis, and then Atlantis is never mentioned again. Still, the journey does yield results. For example, they eventually find the first jewel of the Corona Aurora in Pirate in Pink, a surprisingly enjoyable outing with lots of silly pirate antics and jokes. In the next episode, we even get a neat little continuity nod.
There were reports of a magical dragon outside of a city called Briarwood. I purchased the scale from a record store owner, who claims it's from a dragon called Fireheart.
The scale from Fireheart, in turn, is used to create a special shield armor, the Defender Vest, to protect them from the kickback of a new weapon, kind of a mini battleizer. Reminds me of Tommy's Green Ranger shield, especially since they seem to trade it around to every ranger. There's also an episode where it looks like Will has turned on the team and Hartford fires him. Oh no, he turned out to be a jackass. Well, it's a trick, of course, but it's well performed and convincing, except for one point.
Will may have broken a rule or two, or three, but he's not going to turn against us.
Aside from being a loner in one episode, when did he ever do that? In some ways, Overdrive can be seen as a precursor to the Neo-Saban era. Character development is often informed attributes as opposed to actually letting character traits show themselves. It's a show, don't tell kind of thing. If we had seen Will display those kind of qualities in more than just one episode, it'd be easier to buy him betraying the others. That would be more serialized storytelling than just having the end of an episode contribute to the overall plot of the next. Still, in this same episode, it reveals Miratrix's goal to the other Rangers, though the audience had been clued in earlier episodes. She was trying to free a warrior named Camdor from a jewel she wore. She later explains that Camdor had saved her life on another planet, but the people she had been fighting contained him in the crystal, so she spent the last 2 years looking for a way to get him out. And with Will's help, she succeeds. Good one.
I can't believe he's with her. You don't just hook up with a friend's ex.
Dax, shut up. Anyway, Miratrix's overall goal seems to just be to acquire wealth, particularly in the form of gems and precious stones. The overall story of the season does continue with the two-parter Face to Face. Moltor brings in a monster called Tyzon to retrieve a parchment that could lead to the next stone, but clearly there's something more about Tyzon, especially after he shows concern for civilians in an attack on the city. Mac chases him, trying to figure out his deal, and when confronted with his own reflection...
No.
Mac tries to convince him to give over the parchment, especially when he learns that it's the Corona Aurora that Moltor is seeking. Tyzon confronts Moltor and refuses to help him any longer, and the two fight, Mac even taking a hit for Tyzon and saving him. Tyzon explains his deal. He came to Earth originally to search for something, but found Moltor, who smashed a jewel that belonged to him. From there, Moltor transformed him into his more reptilian form, promising to change him back if he agreed to work for him. Tyzon is a Mercurian, a race that looks human because, as we established with KO-35, we really only have two extremes with alien races, either humanoid or, oh god, run away, but has the ability to transform into a semi-liquid Mercury and then move around. Naturally, Mac offers to use the state-of-the-art laboratory they have back at the mansion to try to help Tyzon. Tyzon manages to uncover hidden longitude and latitude coordinates on the parchment with some lemonade, because the writers had probably just watched National Treasure for the first time. Otherwise, there is no explanation how the hell he knew to do that. Also, I'm pretty sure this parchment is supposed to be thousands of years old. Longitude, as we understand it, only came to prominence in the last few hundred years. I suppose this could just be the Power Rangers version of history, but I prefer it to just be another example of Power Rangers strangling the neck of science instead. I should also harp on the numbers and not looking like the ancient Arab versions of those numbers too. So I will. That's not how those numbers should look. I'm starting to think this parchment is as authentic as the treasure map on the back of a Denny's placemat. Anyway, they get a new Zord, the Sonic Streaker, which is like the fifth or so in a row. You see why I'm not being all that careful tracking the Zords anymore? Which they use as part of a new combination of 10 Zords to create the Drive Max Ultra Zord, and they retrieve the jewel. And thus they have 2 jewels of the Corona Aurora, and the Sentinel Knight decides to reappear after being absent for like 11 episodes.
The combined power of 2 jewels of the Corona can cause a catastrophe or a miracle.
And so the jewels transform Tyzon to his more humanoid form, and he heads out, leading us to the next two-parter, Man of Mercury. An archaeological expedition is attacked by 2 monsters seeking one of the jewels. The 2 are identified by Miratrix as Fear Cats, yet another villain faction, this one hoping to unleash an army hidden inside of a mirror. Though they kick 10 kinds of ass, so I'm not sure what they need an army for. Tyzon joins up with the team again to explain the Fear Cats' deal, including how he came to Earth to find and destroy them, then goes after them on his own while the Rangers hunt for the jewel. However, during the search, Ronnie is taken by the cats. They plan to use the power in her Overdrive tracker to release their army. They succeed in letting one more of their kind out, but Ronnie and Tyzon are able to shatter the mirror before any more can escape. The Rangers are able to destroy one of them, but the other 2, named Mig and Benglo, attack Tyzon and destroy his body, reverting him to Mercury and ending Part 1. In Part 2, the Rangers bring Tyzon back to the lab in hopes that Hartford can do something for him, while also speculating about where the jewel could be, since they only picked up faint energy traces from it that indicate it's long gone. Florius, meanwhile, worried about the arrival of the Fear Cats, sets about a plan to enhance his troops against the creatures. Hartford manages to heal Tyzon by using a metal stabilizing agent usually used for the Zord technology, while the Rangers go to fight the Fear Cats, who are attacking a city. After Tyzon is better...
I made this, just in case you returned. You've got a great team to support you. I can't join the team.
However, Tyzon can't stand to see the Rangers being hurt, so he goes off to help them, though leaves the Morpher behind. With his help, they defeat the Fear Cats, but their bodies are taken by Florius, who inserts devices in them to enhance their power and try to enslave them. They go along with it for the moment, and we cut back to Tyzon, who explains why he can't join the team.
Many years ago, I was part of an elite team. We were intergalactic emergency responders. We were called to a cave-in. Innocent people were caught in rubble. One was very upset.
Save us from the Fear Cats! They're blasting the cave from the inside!
So, I sent my team back in, assuming that the Fear Cats were trapped inside. The Fear Cats weren't in the cave anymore. They'd escaped somehow. It's my fault that they are lost. Rescuing? It was my life. But I will never jeopardize another team.
That's actually a pretty good backstory. Admittedly, as a search and rescue officer, he should know full well the risks involved in helping other people, but at the same time, he's probably got survivor's guilt on top of just the general blaming himself for his decision leading to them getting killed. Add on the body issues he had with the earlier transformation by Moltor, and Tyzon is a walking Mercury puddle of issues. Ronnie tries to convince him to stay.
Look, we don't always win. Sometimes the bad guys do, but we can't let that stop us. That is what makes us heroes.
The Fear Cats attack again, now fully upgraded into this niftier armored form, and once again kick the Rangers around like they were nothing. However...
I won't allow you or anyone else to terrorize this planet.
Way to ruin the moment by conveying absolutely no emotion, Taizan.
Overdrive, accelerate! Mercury Rangers!
Wait, never mind. The badness occurred by the reveal of this outfit. The Mercury Ranger outfit takes all the worst aspects of the Overdrive uniforms, namely the chrome, and somehow makes it even worse. Silver as the central color is fine, but then we have orange stripes combined with purple armor. Okay, it could be metallic blue, but honestly it looks purple to me. Might just be the lighting. It is gaudy and ugly, and it does not go together. This looks like a Power Rangers parody. Hell, I think the shoulder pads are actually even bigger than on the normal Overdrive uniforms. Oh god, looking at it in future episodes, it actually has police siren lights built into the shoulder pads. This thing wants to be the Blue Centurion so badly, yet I sincerely doubt the evil pizzas will have any problem with this. It's really sad, too, because I actually like the Mercury Ranger Morpher. It's got the same spinning thingy to start it up, but it also has a big plate that opens up. And you know how much of a sucker I am for morphers that open up. Oh, and speaking of, Hartford can just make more morphers out of nowhere.
You're rich. Buy an army.
Oh, and the Mercury Ranger's nifty weapon is a staff. That doubles as a metal detector. I'd complain about this, but then again, we did have an ancient ninja electric guitar a few seasons ago, so who am I to complain? The Fear Cats naturally split off from Flurious in the next episode. Face to Face and Man of Mercury can really be thought of as more of a four-parter than two two-parters. Much as I dislike this season, and these episodes contain a lot of the same problems as the rest of it, it's honestly one of the better 6th Ranger introductions. In theory, anyway. It's up to personal taste, but from a story perspective, it does some new things. We've had a good guy in monster form with Zenaku back in Wild Force, but this time the Ranger is still a good guy despite looking monstrous. His backstory is tragic, and there are shades of Andros not wanting the other Rangers to join him from way back during In Space. I would have preferred stretching things out a bit, admittedly, either leaving Taizan in his more monstrous form longer, or having more of a gap between Face to Face and Man of Mercury in order to help build the loner cred a bit more by spending time away from the others. However, unlike some of the other 6th Ranger arcs, it doesn't drag or repeat the same points over and over. That's one of the few things that the terrible quick pacing actually helps with, though the rest of it is still far too fast. Nothing is given a chance to settle in, and we rarely get shots that don't change every 2 to 3 seconds. It's like this was edited with a music video in mind. In the next episode, we get a look at Taizan's ride, the Flashpoint Megazord, which is made up of 2 rescue runners and a large central firefighting thingy. I will say this, unintentional as it probably is, it wouldn't surprise me, based on the police motif of the rescue runners, if Hartford was a major funder and researcher for SPD. Hell, maybe he finally took Rose's words to heart and built himself an army. The next string of episodes are pretty bad, though. The plots are ridiculous, the characters act like morons, I'll get to more specifics soon, and the pacing is worse than ever. However, something very interesting is said in Out of Luck, a very stupid comic relief episode about Mac being cursed with bad luck by an artifact.
If it's true the compass can bestow bad luck, how is it that
I don't know, Spencer. Don't know.
Well, I say it's interesting. It's hinting for story down the road, but it's idiotic because, well, the explanation does not preclude the magical luck thing as established in the story, but whatever. It's good foreshadowing. So Miratrix and Camdor managed to get their hands on the 3rd jewel, but hey, I'm sure you're not worried about that part. So let's talk about the fact that Operation Overdrive was the 15th season and subsequently the 15th anniversary of Power Rangers. And thus there was the 2-parter Once a Ranger. The various evil factions receive a message offering them assistance in finding the jewels, and some are taken whether they wanted to come or not. Who invited them? This dude.
I am Thrax,
Thrax, believe it or not, is the son of Rita and Zed.
I believe it's time to think about a new addition to our family.
Addition? What kind of addition?
Why, a baby.
What? Excuse me, a moment. I'll be right back.
Sweetheart!
One of the theories about why Zed and Rita didn't fulfill their promise at the end of Zeo to start fighting the Rangers again is that they were off having and raising Thrax. It's not a bad theory, except of course the timeline really doesn't match up with how old this guy looks versus how much time has passed since the end of Zeo. Then again, this could just keep up that old theory I had about time being different in the Power Rangers universe and a year being longer there than it is in the real world. Unfortunately, things are compounded further by the next bits of dialogue.
Like Moltor and Furious, I was imprisoned by the Sentinel Knight. As the night weakens, I grew stronger. After all these years, I'm free!
The Sentinel Knight, who is in some kind of spirit form, I guess. They never really explained what the hell his deal is. The last time we saw him like this was from a flashback. A flashback that took place millions of years ago, considering the jewels were scattered on Earth back when the continents were still all combined together. And Thrax just looks awful. I get what they're going for in the design, but that underbite ruins it. Why not just have the grating cover his entire face? And why is his voice so generic? It's standard Monster of the Week gravelly voice. Call up Robert Axelrod and have him do a voice cameo. Give this crappy villain some semblance of grandeur, because he certainly doesn't have that from his appearance. Hell, Camdor looks more menacing, and he's got a big poofy feather boa collar. Anyway, Thrax proposes a temporary alliance between all the factions to finally eliminate the Rangers. Up until this point, there had been brief alliances between the factions, lasting no longer than an episode or so, but never all of them at the same time. Sure, while the different factions all want the jewels for themselves, it's ultimately the Rangers who screw them over, so such an alliance makes sense to them. So here we have this bunch of narcissistic, overpowered, overbearing evildoers all joining together. And what are the Rangers up to?
I can barely remember what life was like before Operation Overdrive.
I can. Boring.
I've got to admit, I thought my life was adventurous before, but now it's like,
something out of a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shut up, Dax. Yeah, Tyzon has to remind them that the best part about being a Ranger is saving the world, but then again, his entire life before coming here was built around altruism and rescuing people. The other Rangers, though? Yeah, in the past 20 episodes, they haven't exactly made a good impression.
We can't let him get away. We have to go after the crown.
No, there are people to be saved first.
But the crown.
Dax lets Miratrix go with the scroll. Now, it's a fake scroll, but the audience doesn't know that, and then he's having a pity party for himself by playing pool while the other Rangers are fighting. Even though he didn't let her get away with the real scroll. Mac almost fails to save a guy, then fails to start a Zord, and these two setbacks instantly make him want to give up being a Ranger. Dax decides to choose being an actor over his Ranger duties. Now, ultimately, he chooses his Ranger duties, but he waits until 5 seconds before he'd be done with his acting job, meaning he ended up wasting the time of the film crew by running off without explanation. Mac is missing, and in the presence of a monster they don't know or trust. Dax's reaction?
Hey, if Mac doesn't come back, can I have the Sonic Streaker?
How come you get dibs on it?
Tyzon decides to imitate Will, completely out of nowhere and not set up anywhere, to the point where he's wearing a wig to imitate his hairstyle and deliberately taking on large enemy groups single-handedly just because he thinks that's what Will would do. And then, when Will tells him to not imitate him, his solution is to charge headfirst into a battle instead of waiting for backup. And then he leaves Will to deal with a huge squad of foot soldiers on his own. Oh, and Will failed to call for backup, instead just waiting until Moltor had gotten his hands on Thor's hammer. Seriously. They all fall for the, "Hey, look over there!" trick. Will wants to resign after Miratrix and Camdor get one of the jewels from him in battle. Hartford apparently wants to fire him too, despite him not giving that kind of crap to Mac when he wanted to resign. Plus, Spencer rightfully points out to Hartford that he lost the crown itself once too. But hey, these are isolated incidents. It's not like the Rangers will be douchebags in this anniversary episode, will they? And anyway, Thrax calls out the Rangers, who of course arrive to fight and get their asses kicked. And to be fair, they had established the individual faction leaders as powerful in their own rights, which I'll get into in more detail when I discuss the villains of the season. That being said, the individual Rangers all get the same damn Kalash explosion effect behind them for their defeat, one that we've seen in every single episode before this one, so it's not exactly impressive seeing the Rangers defeated like this. Anyway, utilizing the energies of all the evil factions, Thrax is able to cut off the Rangers' link to the morphing grid, represented in this episode as some CGI tunnel thing, and critically damage their morphers. Before the group can kill the Rangers, the Sentinel Knight appears and teleports them away. I should note, by the way, that this is only the third time the Sentinel Knight has appeared in the entire season, and this is the 20th episode. You could argue he's very weak, so he couldn't have more of a presence in the show before now. I say it's just bad writing, especially after the Deus Ex Machina of him using the 2 jewels to restore Tyzon. Hartford basically says the tear in the morphing grid prevents them from accessing their powers, and reports start coming in from all over the world of Thrax's alliance searching for the remaining jewels. On top of that, it's only a matter of time before they come to the mansion for the 2 jewels they have, so things are bleak. Hartford points out they do have a chance to fight though, since they still have the civilian powers he grafted onto them. And thus they head out to fight Camdor and Mig at Stonehenge. And props to, the props, it's not a bad looking recreation of Stonehenge. And thus they engage, and get beaten. Hard. Although again, to be fair, one of them was a Fear Cat who we've seen in previous episodes easily kick the asses of the Rangers while they were morphed. But yeah, things look pretty bad. Until...
Looks like you guys could use a little help.